to Tom's Watch Bar in Minneapolis this Sunday and join Bumper to Bumper's Justin Guard for a KFAN Wolves watch party. We'll have Timberwolves versus Suns live on the big screens, delicious food and drinks, and your chance to secure exclusive KFAN swag and a chance to qualify for Wolves tickets later this season. Get all the details now at KFAN.com. Keyword calendar.
It's a couple 13-14 past Common Man program. I'm Common. He's 10 to be. 1:30 PST, triple B, double I. Results and pairings. We'll hear what Kwesi has to say about the Vikings headed into the Combine. That's at 1:15 or so. But right now, it's time for 5, 3, 4.
Time now for 5 questions. Well, actually 3, but 5 sounds like more than 4. Question number 1.
Time now for an in-depth look at the state of hockey.
Yeah, not good news for the Minnesota Wild today. Joel Eriksson Ek was injured at practice yesterday, placed on injured reserve today. Head coach John Hines said he'll miss a couple of weeks. Common, can the Wild survive without Kaprizov and Joel Eriksson Ek?
First question, upper or lower on the injury, do we know?
Lower body.
How does it happen in practice?
Well, and they made it seem like you kind of noticed it after practice. So my guess, and I'm not a doctor, it's one of those groin hip flexor things. He was just playing in the Four Nations face-off.
It was probably the Four Nations face-off that the hockey community loves so much. You probably got injured there, then aggravated it, and because we had to do we can't just be happy with the National Hockey League season because it's the Cup. We decided we have to do a Four Nations thing, and I guess we'll never know if that's where it happened, but that would be my guess. I don't know. You tell me. Kaprizov's the best player in your team, and Ek is one of the top 2 or 3 or 4.
He might be the most irreplaceable.
Yeah. So you tell me. I mean, it's like, I know they got off to the great start, sort of unexpectedly to start the season. The goaltending was great. Kaprizov got off to the best start of his career. Everything looked good. And then some injuries and a losing streak and goaltending kind of, I don't know. You tell me. I mean, plus it gives me a chance to eat.
I would tell you I think they're in trouble, but I also would have said I think they're in trouble just once Kaprizov got hurt, and they've found a way to survive that. Weather the storm, a lot of that is because they're pretty good defensively and have gotten good goaltending. Now, Joel Eriksson Ek is also a reason they're pretty good defensively. He's your best shutdown center when you're playing top line on another team. He's responsible for matching up against them, and they don't really have a guy that's anywhere close to him in that regard. He hasn't had a great offensive season, and I feel like maybe he's been bad. He's been bruised and beat up a little bit more than we know throughout the season. And maybe this is just coming to light now as of this morning. But they're already so thin in their top 6, and then you lose Kaprizov and Joel Eriksson Ek, and it's, I guess if you can find a way to be winning 2-1 games, 3-2 games, just because you're good defensively and you're goaltending, you might be able to weather the storm. And thankfully, I think they have a 10-point cushion over the last team that's out of the playoffs right now. So because they put so many points in the bank in November and December and October, they might be able to survive. But, the lineup they're going to be throwing out, I don't know how successful they're going to be.
The Wolves did it without Gobert.
Yeah.
DiVincenzo
Ant on the bench.
And Ant on the bench. DiVincenzo and Julius Randle out. So, cry me a river, tend to be. It's like...
Others got to elevate the next man up.
Elevate.
Next man up.
Elevate your...
Question number 2.
We're gonna win, Twins, we're gonna...
No, we're not. Well, maybe we will.
It's now time to delve deep into Twins territory.
Crack out a home run, shout a hip hooray! Cheer for the Minnesota Twins today!
Chris Paddock retired 6 of 8 hitters, giving up 1 run as the Twins tied the Rays 1-1 in a game that was called after 2 innings due to rain. Paddock hit 95.4 miles per hour on his fastball yesterday. He didn't pitch after the All-Star break last season due to a forearm strain in his right arm. Common, what is your confidence level in Chris Paddock and maybe the entire rotation for the Twins this season?
The Paddock quotes, I could get them for you. I'll paraphrase them for now. Never felt better. He's ahead of the game. Everything's good. He let it all hang out. He wanted to show everybody he can throw hard. He was, the radar was touching 95 miles an hour. Buxton's back. The slump. Remember when Royce Lewis said he was slump proof? He doesn't believe in slumps, he said, when he had a terrible slump last year. He's better for it. Correa's ready to play. Everybody's never felt better. Okay. But we've heard that not just from the Twins, but every other team and every other city and every other sport for years and years and years. So I'll let it play itself out. I will say it's better that Paddock is back pitching, even if it was for 2 innings, and got retired 6 of 8. Though I think he gave up a moonshot home run, but better that he's healthy and he's pitching because, when he's healthy and pitching at his peak, I mean, he's not Cy Young, but he's okay. He'd be a nice addition to the rotation. Our other 3 guys, our Ober, Ryan, and Lopez, are good. And we got some nice everyday players. If they all stay healthy and play like they are capable of for most of the season, got a pretty decent club. It's not be fun to watch them. I don't think they're going to win the World Series. I don't even know if they'll qualify for the playoffs, but they're okay. But it's just hearing everybody talk so positive. It's always at spring training. Every team is talking positive. Everybody feels good. Everybody's injuries are gone. Everybody's in the best shape of their life. Everybody likes the look of the club. And then the real games start. And then all of a sudden you're sitting there in middle of May and you're 12 games out of first place. And you're going, I guess it's not as rosy as we thought.
All those comments mean nothing.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. Yeah. But it was nice to see him actually pitching and not nursing some type of an arm injury.
Question number 3. And now it's time to go in the trenches.
Troy Vincent, the NFL's executive vice president of football operations, told reporters at the scouting combine on Monday that an NFL team has submitted a rule proposal to ban the tush push quarterback sneak. The Packers reportedly are that team that submitted the proposal. NFL owners could vote on the proposal next month at the annual league meeting in Palm Beach, Florida, unless the team decides to withdraw its proposal. If the proposal goes to a vote, 24 of the NFL's 32 owners would have to vote in favor for it to pass. Common, will the tush push get enough votes to be banned?
I'll say yes. I was reading a couple of pieces about it's just funny how the world of sports is. The controversy is the tush push, but I guess it's one of those stories that's out there. And, I'm a fraud, but remember when Major League Baseball banned the shift? And I was like, what? Why are you banning the shift? It's just a defensive strategy. And if just because your hitters or many of they hit at the same spot every single time, well then learn to hit it where they ain't, and if you can't, go play in the minor leagues or find another job. I mean, why should we make, he can't hit it to the opposite field, so we can't have a shift. I could say the same thing about the tush push. Stop it. If you can't stop it, too bad, and do it yourself, right? But I do sort of agree that it does seem like rugby. And I'm not, I've not watched a lot of rugby, but that's kind of what they do in rugby. The guy gets the ball and they just start pushing and shoving, and it's just it's a mob scene. I don't really like the tush push, so I know your question was, do I think they'll ban? I'll say yes. And do I think they should? Yeah, sort of, kind of. I don't know. What do you think? You don't like
I hope the focus isn't just on the tush push. I don't like any plays at all in which the person possessing the ball is being pushed by someone, right? It's not just the Jalen Hurts tush push where we see this. It's also running back carries a tight end catches a ball and 3 defenders are holding him up, and all of a sudden offensive linemen just come jumping, running in.
Yep.
I don't think you should be able to be pushed in any way, shape, or form by anyone on the offensive side of the ball. That now includes tush push.
Okay.
So I am all for that being illegal, banned. In the tush push specifically, it's not a fun play to watch. It's not entertaining. It's pretty predictable what the result's going to be.
Right.
And it's just kind of a competitive advantage. I don't know. Well, so I would say I would like to ban it.
But
Now, I don't know if, Philadelphia ain't going to vote against it. I'm not sure Buffalo's going to vote against it just because they have a competitive advantage with those quarterbacks on their roster. So I don't know if they'll be able to get the 24 votes.
Well, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
What about, though, can it be hard to determine what is it? Like, for instance, let's say you're just running, you run a play, and an offensive lineman kind of just ends up, as he's being pushed by a defensive player, he backs into the running back, and do you throw a flag there? Nope, that doesn't work. And how do you judge if it was intentional? Do you see what I'm saying? You could
I think most times it's clear to see the intent on it.
Right.
And that's what referees are for. They got to make judgment calls.
Right. I could see a ref calling that he did do it, and it changes the complexion.
Most guys just don't accidentally fall into your own ball carrier while pushing them forward.
You'd be surprised.
I mean, you might fall into them because you're being blocked or something, but you're not.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You get blocked. So how do you judge that? If I'm a lineman and I'm pushing forward, and the defensive player pushes me over, and I slam into the back of the running back and push him ahead of yard, is that a flag come out there? Do you go, no, his intent was? Well, maybe you can make it look like you're stumbling and you're pushing. I just think that there's some gray area.
That'd be quite the art to it that I'm not sure all the offensive linemen can pull off, but.
I guess what I'm saying is I just don't think you're under, and I can see by the grin on your face that you just think it's.
I just think it's pretty clear to tell when an offensive lineman is pushing the ball carrier.
Okay.
They usually have a running start and they run in right into the back and they're using their arms and pushing them.
On that play, but you can still then, okay, just don't make it obvious, guys. We need to push him there. Don't make it obvious. I just think there's more.
I think it's hard to push without making it look obvious.
Put it this way. I think there's more gray area than you think. And there will be all sorts of instant. Then they'll have to say, we have to go to the booth to see did the guy really push him or did he not push him? I think it's more complicated.
NHL referees can determine whether a guy's flopping or not. NBA, referees can make judgment calls.
Okay. I'm just telling you, it's going to be controversial. You can say what you want, but I think it's going to be
interesting.
More complicated than that. We'll take a break and come back. We'll hear from.
We're going to play Kwesi?
Yeah, we'll hear from Kwesi when we return here on the Fan.
Fan.
Get ready for the ultimate day of heavy metal. Summer of Loud 2025 is set to hit the Somerset Amphitheater on Friday, July 11th, with performances from Parkway Drive, I Prevail, Beartooth, and more. Don't miss out. Tickets go on sale Friday at 10 a.m. Get all the details now at KFAN.com. Keyword calendar.
And what if you block a guy into a running back? Does that count? I mean, I don't know. I think it's complicated.
No, I think that should be allowed.
Okay.
If you're strong enough to block a guy into your own running back and he still gains yards out of it, I think that's a skilled play.
Once again, the esoteric approach.
You just can't directly touch your own ball carrier.
Well, again, when there's 10 guys in a
intentionally.
Well, yeah, but again, intention.
Yes.
Then that's left up to and I don't like when that's left up. I mean, I'm not intending to get you. You're not intending to get me going, but you are. You're getting me going right now because you don't understand the logic of what I'm trying to say.
No, I do understand. I just disagree with it.
Who's supposed to? Well, how can you disagree with pure, simple logic? You can't argue it. It's just like there will be plays where it'll be hard to determine, where an offensive player will push a running back, and it'll be hard to tell, did he do that on purpose or did he get forced into? Like, what if one of his doping linemen bumps into him, he falls into the running back, and he gains an extra quarter of a yard? Do you throw a flag there?
I don't think intent is that challenging to see when it comes to pushing your own running back.
Again. I think it is. Again, because if it was that simple, it wouldn't be this controversial.
So you're against flopping and diving calls, embellishment calls in hockey and basketball then? Because it's the referee's job there to determine whether they were intending to do that or not. Yeah, so you must be against that.
I am against those. I am against those. You can't tell if a guy was flopping or not. You don't know that. You can think he was. That's not your job to determine, but that's a whole other story in itself. Let's do this. Kwesi was met with the media at the Combine. Let's hear what he had to say.
In the hopes and the search of improving this team for 2025. Kwesi, where are you in terms of a possibility of bringing Sam Darnold back either on a franchise tag or on an extension?
Yeah, we're still in that place where we're having all these discussions. Every option is afforded to us. When we did the move originally, we wanted to create optionality, and part of the optionality was, believing and betting in a guy who is young, talented, believing in our infrastructure, able to do the things that we can do with quarterbacks. And so we're in a position where we have options, and we'll continue to work those options and figure out the best way for the Vikings to move forward.
One of those options is Daniel Jones. Do you see him as a possible that you could get him back as a backup, or is he a starter in this league and you expect him to look for a job like that?
We try and not be as binary with the quarterback conversation as others are, where either you're one of the top three or you're nobody. And so we kind of talk about it a little differently. But Daniel's somebody we wanted to bring in for that reason, just to learn about him, see what he would be like in our building and our culture. He's a great option for us. And again, he's like the other options we have. We'll think about him and go forward.
Talk about Darnold, considering how his year went and everything that he did and then how it ended.
Yeah, it's tough. I was telling my staff if I could have thought of a brain teaser of an experiment to think through, that would have been a pretty tough one where, Pro Bowl quarterback, win all those games, and then you lose to two teams twice. And so that was really kind of the core of our offseason, really thinking through that holistically, being really not trying to be overweighted by those 8 quarters, but not not underweighting those last 2 games. And really, he played a lot of good football for us. Year 1 in the system, so you can expect more later. And so we're excited at the potential for Sam, whatever that ends up being. But it's a tough exercise. But I want to make sure that we're continuing saying we're so proud of what he did for us. We're so proud of this team. It didn't end the way we wanted it to, but a lot of good things happened. We've continued to lay the foundation for the team we want to be, and we'll continue to go forward.
How involved is Vikings ownership in the quarterback decision this offseason?
Our owners are great. They allow us to do our job, but it's our job to present to them our logic, always. Every decision we make, what's the why? They're very big process people, and so they're running a business, and so it's my job to show them our logic, and we do that. So they are involved, but they are very good at letting people do their jobs, and they ask a lot of good questions. That is, they're really talented, and I try and ask them questions about real estate so I can maybe get on their level one day. But they're great. They're great resources for us.
Further ahead is J.J. McCarthy than he would have been at the start of his rookie year, just based on being in the NFL with you that year.
And not as obviously the injury was unfortunate, but just understanding you're learning a new language. As anybody's, and I took Latin in high school, so that's not, I don't know if that's a real language, but you get conversational. You're able to not just go out to dinner, but have a conversation with somebody, learn about somebody. So he's conversational in our language, in our offensive language, understanding the why, the intent behind things. You want to be able to go out there and play free and let his talent take over. And so all these steps, all the learning he's done in this past year is going to allow him to be able to do that. We're excited about the makeup of him. He's been everything we want him to be, and we're excited about his future.
Talk about binary discussion in the media when it comes to the draft picks.
I didn't say the media. I just said binary discussion. No, I love you guys. But
when you talk about the media, the way they portray analytically forward organizations, it's like, all right, target players who are young, have good size, big program. You guys have bucked that a little bit with some older players, undersized guys. Do you feel like that's how you market efficiency? Like how do you view the way you acquire talent?
I think everything we try and not be hard set in our rules per se. And I think obviously you always want the players that are the most at everything, youngest, the fastest, the biggest, the smartest. There's only so many of those players in every draft. And so what do you do after that? How do you win on the margins? How do you find value elsewhere? We play a lot of great systems that tax other parts of a player besides pure athleticism. And so we try and get value out of that. But look, I think if you look at our draft or in our free agency acquisition, it's a portfolio. Just you're trying to find different bets in different ways. And we have a 2-3 year horizon where we're trying to do those things. And ultimately you go see where it shakes out, see where you figure out relative to your benchmark, and you go from there.
The free agent running back market, it's been somewhat depressed recently. How much do you think the success of Derrick Henry and Saquon this year will impact or maybe cause that market to have an uptick?
I think it's probably accurate to say that, but you also named 2 unbelievable names that might be getting gold jackets one day when their careers are over. So I think it's about the person that is up in the discussion, but that was probably a position that maybe did get to a place where markets aren't perfectly efficient in a short period of time. I think long term they typically get to their right water. But that's a position that obviously if you have the front to be able to block for them, they can change games and they can really impact not just your offense but your defense, control the clock and different things like that.
A couple running backs that are projected to go in the first round this year, maybe early second, first round running backs have been controversial, but the fact that they're being mocked that high, does that suggest a change in NFL offenses and the appetite for a running back, or is this just a really special class?
I can't speak for the other 31 GMs who might pull that card. It's an interesting conversation because a draft pick is about potential ceiling, ability to play at a certain level while you have those years under contract below free agency market level, your ability to sustain a second contract, there's just all these questions that come into that answer before you pull the card, and I can't answer that for them. I can see why the teams are deciding that, hey, can this player help overcome other things? Because that's all we're trying to do. When you bring in players of high assets, you're trying to overcome other aspects of your team. That's just no matter what position that is. And so if you have that unique skill set in a player, you should go do that. And that might be in the first round, might be in the fifth round. This is a really good class of running backs in the draft, so we'll be excited to get a look at them.
There's a lot of talk about the trenches for you guys this offseason on both sides. Can you take us through the scouting process maybe and how that works on draft day and who has a say and maybe how that goes in the draft room?
Yeah, I think ultimately at the end of the day, we're trying to be one of those last four teams first and then try to be one of the last teams standing. And to play January football, there's a certain way you got to play. You got to be able to, control the ball on offense, and you got to be able to get after the passer sometimes with just four. And so I think just these are things we all know, and I've been on teams that have that. But when you're going through your process over the years and you're building 2-3 year horizons, you're always trying to make sure that you're addressing all the needs at once. And I think this is probably one where we need to get better at, and we will do that from different avenues. But as every decision we make here in this organization, as long as I'm here, it will be about collaboration. So I lean on Kevin a lot. We have a system of how we talk about players, how we evaluate players. As a group, we've kind of got better at our collective system, right? We've got a collective memory together. Hey, we passing this guy, all those things. So we've gotten better on a group. After 3 years, I've actually had the chance to go back and look at the data and how is our board doing, and it's consistently getting better. So how do you get results? It's really about execution and then finding pathways for people to play and get there and go forward. But we love our process, and it'll always change. You'll show up next year, and I'll look you in the eye and tell you we're going to get better in some way, because if you're not doing that, you're not going to be doing this very long.
Kwesi, last year in the offseason, with so many different ways to measure speed now, how do you guys look at the 40 and its importance in the scouting process compared to what
it's a tough one. As coming in as the guy who used to show up with a model number and say, hey guys, this guy's really good, having never watched the guy on film. There's 40 speed, there's play speed, there's different components of the 40. Is it the 10-yard split, is it the flying 20? And really when I was first starting out, I tried to ask scouts, really just experienced people, why do you look at it the way you do? Intuitively, what does a 10 mean, a flying 10, a flying 20, and just really learn from that. And now we have different measures with player tracking and different things like that, but you're always going to make sure that you're not trying to use a weapon of math destruction, because there's just because somebody's running at full speed, you got to make sure the context is right, and make sure that you're comparing apples to apples. So we do a lot of great work to get it to a place where we feel good about it, but it's not going to be perfect. So we kind of use those measures against each other, and and go from there and combine the information with what our scouts see, what our coaches see, and then we'll go from there.
Is it easier to get that from colleges now? Obviously, it's there in the NFL, but how much of that are you guys able to get from colleges to measure speed that way?
Yeah, there's some great third parties. I'm not going to use this time to endorse them, but some guys that I really know a long time and really great at, and the information's got really a lot better. You need a good enough sample size, so sometimes for the smaller schools, you don't get a lot of snaps, so you really want to see somebody's full season's work to really trust a number like that. But there's some great stuff out there, and it'll continue to get better. There's smart people working at every level trying to find an edge, and we want to be aligned with those people.
Vision AI taking hold in the scouting community, good, bad, indifferent? What do you?
I'm always optimistic. First and foremost is really narrowing down is what does that word mean. Being in that space myself, it's really just trying to find, factors and to help you make decisions in the future, right? And so now there's, with all these large language models and different things like that, there's ways of taking information and finding, insight that really I couldn't have thought of, right? Or Kevin couldn't have thought of. And that's really encouraging. Now, you want to make sure that you check it because, it's almost like a self-driving car. You want it to drive itself, but you want to be able to grab the wheel when something's off. I think that's kind of how I think about AI. But I'd be crazy to tell you that it's not something I'm excited about and looking forward to. I don't know if you need to be the first team. You don't want to be the last that incorporates it. And we got some really smart people in our football quantitative methods group that are working through that. They show up at my desk, and sometimes I miss those Python days that I used to get to do stuff like that. But they're doing some great work for the Vikings, and we're excited to use the information.
A couple more for Kwesi.
We use it a fair bit, but it's really just trying to, a lot of it's just pairing against other information we have to see what it is. A lot of that stuff, you need to get a lot of data, right? You need to get, large numbers of years, number of interactions, numbers of results to get good insights. And so we're building towards that. You want to make sure that you don't, use a 2-year insight. Think about an AI model as a scout. Would you trust the 1-year scout or the 10-year scout, right? And so you want to get to a place where maybe it's the 3-year scout, but you're cautious and using intuition to make sure that what it's saying is right. And then by the 10th year, maybe you got something really great that you wouldn't even have known.
Kwesi, last year you had a great offseason, free agencies specific. You have a lot of free agents this year. You have cap space. What lessons do you take that you look at and go, well, we succeeded doing this last year and apply it to this offseason?
Great question. I think just being intentional about the planning. Like I said earlier, as a group, you
time
build
for
this
2 more questions, guys.
Collective decision-making soul, and I think that offseason is going to serve us well because I remember those conversations with my executive staff and Kevin, who I treat as another member of our staff, and talking about potential options at quarterback, and if we do this, what are the other moves we can make? And you go back and look at those meetings, and it's execution after execution. So big part of that is just the collective belief in the group that we tried something. It worked out great. Obviously, it wasn't seamless, it wasn't perfect, but we had a great offseason in that regards. And it's really just being creative with our ideas and just continuing to go forward. But a lot of it's just about the belief that we built. Thank you, guys.
Next, we'll hear from Warren from St. Paul. You get about the same from Kwesi and KOC as you get from Warren from St. Paul. For me, Tenneby, I should be talent evaluator. Just give me a little bit of a video clip of like 3 or 4 of the games they played. Just not the entire game, but just what they did, and I can tell you if you can play in the NFL or not. It's not that complicated. Let's do this. Let's go to break, and as we do, it's time for Wild Today.
Yeah, this is Wild Today brought to you by Jim Beam, the official bourbon of the Minnesota Wild. Not good news today. Joel Eriksson-Ek was injured in practice yesterday. Placed on injured reserve today. He must miss at least 7 days, but the head coach, John Hines, said he's probably going to miss a couple weeks with a lower body injury. Ryan Hartman's suspension for roughing Ottawa's Tim Stützle was reduced from 10 games to 8 today after he appealed to NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman. Hartman has already sat out 4 of those games and is eligible to return March 4th at Seattle. The Wild host the Detroit Red Wings tonight at XL Energy Center. The Wild rallied for a 4-3 overtime win just 3 days ago in Detroit. The Red Wings did, though, beat Anaheim 5-4 on Sunday. Wild versus Red Wings. First puck drops at 7 p.m. tonight. You can hear it right here on The Fan. That was Wild Today, brought to you by Jim Beam, a crowd pleaser since 1795.
Where it stops, nobody knows. It's time for PST Triple V Double I. These are results and pairings. Second round action, I believe, Tenneby continues. What you got for us, old friend?
Second round continues, but we'll be down to our silly 16 as this segment moves on. Let's look at the results from the second round of the
East Region.
The number 1 seed is Draymond Green. Here's what he said about the NBA's fines.
The fines, to me, don't make sense. When you talk about as hard as we work to accumulate wealth, coming from situations that most people never make it out, and then you get fined the way we get fined, it's actually not set up for us to be wealthy after we're done playing.
Draymond went up against the number 9 seed, Jake Paul, who said, quote, "I believe I could beat Mike Tyson during any phase of any part of his career." Well, Jake, you can't take down Draymond Green in his prime because Draymond advances 65 to 35%.
And what's always interesting to me about PST is what Jake Paul said is one of the most preposterous things that's ever been uttered in the history of the world. Yet it's not more preposterous than Draymond Green.
He still doesn't compete.
No, because he is rightfully the winner when he says the fine system in the NBA is set up for us not to be able to take care of ourselves financially when we're done playing. It's so preposterous. And I think Draymond...
How else does he expect him to get punished, by the way, by the league? If you do something wrong.
Well, maybe, spend a night in the box. I have a feeling... I think Draymond is headed toward the Final Four. I'm not trying to influence anything.
No.
I could be wrong, but I think he's got a really good chance.
He's been moving through this tournament pretty easily.
I think he's got a good chance.
East Region.
The number 4 seed, John Smoltz, said, quote, "Those 2 innings by Cole after giving up 5 runs in the 5th was the greatest pitching performance I have ever seen." He went up against the number 5 seed, Paul Pierce, who thinks he's responsible for taking LeBron to the next level.
I truly feel responsible for taking LeBron to that, taking him to that next level, because when he went to Miami, Game 5, Game 6 in Boston, where we had him on the ropes to go back to the finals, I think that was the game that took LeBron to the next level.
Well, Paul Pierce, you're on to the next level. You win 61 to 39% over John Smoltz.
Double P.
East Region.
The number 6 seed is Skip Bayless. He said, quote, "I told my wife you're going to be second in my life to my work. It's rare that I'm going to sacrifice and miss a LeBron game. I chose to dedicate my life to this." Skip went up against the number 3 seed Tom Fornelli, who posted a poll on Twitter that asked, "As a college basketball fan, what would you prefer your favorite team to do? A, win your conference, or B, win the NCAA tournament?" Skip Bayless goes down. Tom Fornelli advances 57 to 43%.
Well, if you really pick this apart and analyze it, and I guess people are doing that. I never really, tried to take that a microscopic look at it. But if that's how Skip Bayless approaches his marriage, you understand what I want? The other one, is a preposterous. I mean, everybody knows that you would want your team to win the national championship rather than the conference. But if Skip's so nuts and so into sports, you just go, okay, dude, if that's what you're into. So even though it is preposterous, you know what I'm trying to say? It's just, to me, it's a little bit, it's like,
one's preposterous, one's just like
sad.
Crazy.
Yeah, sad, really. Yeah, exactly. So
one is, how do you function as a human in society?
Yes, right.
Yes.
Exactly. That's the difference, I guess.
East Region.
Speaking of how does he function in society, Meat Sauce is the number 7 seed. He said, quote, "Did they put the Final Four in stadiums to sell more seats?" That's what he asked. He went up against the number 2 seed, Gilbert Arenas, who called out Rudy Gobert for missing a playoff game for the birth of his child, saying, quote, "It's a baby, bro. It's going to be there when you get back." Close one here, 54 to 46%. But Meat Sauce is done. Gilbert Arenas advances to the Silly 16.
Hey, Gil, way to go, Gil. Gil the thrill.
All right, let's move on to the
South Region.
The number 1 seed is Paul Charchian. After the Vikings signed Sam Darnold, he tweeted, "This is your new starting QB, Vikings fans. You don't pay $10 million to a backup. Well, you shouldn't anyway. Funny how inexpensive the QB position can be when you sign a player nobody else would dare put under center. I've been told 1,000 times wins are a quarterback stat, so here you go. 56 career starts, 21 wins. We're back to the days of starting washed-up journeyman retreads, and that's how we like it in Minnesota. Sleep easy, Vikings fans. You've got the quarterback you wanted.
It sounded like he was
deserved.
It sounds like he was describing Kirk Cousins, a retread quarterback.
Someone's not happy about Kirk Cousins not being a Viking anymore. He went up against the number 9 seed, Kadarius Toney, who said, quote, or he said that he is the number 1 wide receiver in the NFL, quote, "If I get the ball."
Upset alert.
Kadarius Toney has taken down the first number 1 seed in this tournament. Paul Charchian's gone. Kadarius Toney advances.
Kadarius Toney.
I should say 54 to 46%.
Kadarius Toney wouldn't even be the best receiver on his own team. So I get that, but the charge thing,
he wouldn't be the top 4 receiver on his team. That was the problem.
I think that the Charchian thing, though, about retread,
just how angry he is.
And retread quarterback turned out to be was in the MVP.
The timing of it, too, was right when the Darnold signing happened. He was so bitter about it.
Correct.
South Region.
I'm a little bitter that Charge didn't advance.
I'm surprised, yeah. A couple double-digit seeds here in this matchup. The number 13 seed, Dave Sinekin, After the Packers' playoff win over the Cowboys, he said, quote, "We've endured a lot of heartbreaking January Sundays in recent years. We've earned this."
Yes.
He went up against the number 12 seed Alyssa Milano, who posted a GoFundMe to her followers to raise $10,000 for her son's baseball team to go to Cooperstown. By the way, we should note her net worth is $10 million. Not even close here. Alyssa Milano, 71 to 29%. She advances to the Silly 16.
She would fit in well with the Pohlad family.
Very much. That is something the Pohlads would do.
Yep.
South Region.
The number 6 seed is Jay Williams. After Caitlin Clark broke the women's college scoring record, he said, quote, "I am unwilling to say that she is great yet." He went up against the number 3 seed Doc Rivers. On taking over the Bucks midseason, he said, quote, "I've never done this. I wouldn't wish this on anyone. It's going to be a challenge." Jay Williams advances 57 to 43% over Doc Rivers.
Way to go, Jay!
And our final matchup of the second round.
South Region.
The number 7 seed is Mike Tannenbaum. He said, quote, "Outside of Patrick Mahomes, if we were running an NFL team today, there's nobody on the planet I'd rather have than Jordan Love." He went up against the number 2 seed Lavelle E. Neal III, who said that rodeo cowboys put 400,000 miles a year on their trucks.
Upset alert.
No.
The number 7 seed Mike Tannenbaum advances 54 to 46%. So here's what you're going to have in the Silly 16 out of the South region: a 9 seed, a 12 seed, a 6 seed, and a 7 seed. One of those is going to go to the Foolish Four.
And that's why this truly is a tournament where you have a lot of Cinderella stories.
Yes.
But will that preposterous statement tournament slip or fit? It remains to be seen.
All right, let's move on to the matchups and pairings for the Silly 16. You'll be able to vote on these shortly at KFAN 1003 on Twitter or X.
North Region, presented by Arthur's Jewelers.
The number 1 seed is Anthony Rendon. On playing in the major leagues, he said, quote, "I do not wish this life upon anybody." He'll go up against the number 4 seed Oklahoma State head coach Mike Gundy. After running back Ollie Gordon II was arrested for DUI, he said, quote, "He's going to play. I'm going to do what we think is best for Oklahoma State football, and I think it's best for Ollie to play. If there's any punishment, it's making him carry the ball 50 times in the first game."
PST is so good.
North Region, presented by Arthur's Jewelers.
Number 3 seed is Eventbrite. By the way, this region only has top 4 seeds available here. Number 3 seed Eventbrite. On Meat Sauce's comedy, quote, "His stand-up comedy is a natural extension of his persona and has been compared to many of the pioneers of comedy."
You know, I've worked with him many times, and I don't think that's preposterous. If you squint and you listen closely enough, he's kind of a combination of, well, I would say Dennis Miller, Jerry Stiller, and Phyllis Diller.
He'll go up against the number 2, or I shouldn't say he'll. Eventbrite will go up against the number 2 seed Myles Garrett, who defended Deshaun Watson and criticized those who booed him after he was injured, saying this.
Man does pretty much everything right. He's been a model citizen through college and most of the pros.
Model citizen, Deshaun Watson.
Well, he did say most of the pros. See, that's where I think is the caveat.
Did he say most of, or did he say also?
No, he said most. That sounds like to me. Play it again.
When I wrote it down, it said also. Hold on.
No, man does pretty much everything right. He's been a model citizen through college and most of the pros.
Oh, did he say also? Does he say also?
I don't know.
It
It's hard
sounds
to tell.
like most of the pros to me. So then it wouldn't be precise because there was part of the pros where, if you believe the allegations, and I think most people do, he wasn't. But anyway, nevertheless, there you go.
The thing with the most of the pros thing, though, is this wasn't a one-time
Well, that's true.
incident. This happened. I don't even remember how many women came forward on that one. So it was a continuing effort on his part. Let's move over to the
West Region.
The number 1 seed is Skip Bayless. Here's what Skip said.
I think Bronny will be pretty good. I think he'll become a clutch three-point shooter. I've always gotten the feeling that Bronny had a bigger clutch gene than his father does.
Oh, that's interesting.
How good is this matchup? Skip Bayless versus Paul Charchian. Here's what he said on Fantasy Football Weekly.
You are wrong about the talent. You don't think he has talent? Saquon Barkley is cooked. Oh, okay. Let's put some numbers against it. I would much rather have the recently re-upped Ramondre Stevenson. I would rather have Jonathan Brooks. I'd rather have Zamir White. You know where those guys are going?
Like RB 15 to 20?
Pick 90.
Yeah.
I am so far off Saquon Barkley. To me, we have to get to round 8.
Wow.
He has an ADP of the middle of round 2. I would take Saquon Barkley in round 8.
It's almost too bad these two are up against each other because they are both foolish for worthy.
Yeah. I like Chargers'
and having to meet the silly
though.
16.
A chip and a charge and a chance is what you got.
All right, final matchup.
West Region.
These are two KFAN personalities going at it right here. Two legends, actually, of the fan. The number 14 seed is Mark Rosen on going to the Guthrie, Orpheum, courtside seats at Target Center and Williams Arena on 4 consecutive nights. He said, quote, "It's available to everybody." Yep. He'll go up against the number 2 seed Paul Allen, who said this about the Minnesota Vikings.
This Minnesota Vikings team is absolutely Super Bowl caliber. I don't feel that very often.
Those are both exceptional. I have a hard time predicting that one because I think you have a lot of people that want to get Rosen going and see him advance, and a lot of people that want to get PA going and see him advance. So I think this could be a very close one. I think it's going to go right down to the wire.
I'll go to the 4 in this region, though.
Yeah, one of those like 51 to 49%. Yeah, it's a great region. There you go. Yeah, PST, Triple V, Double I. Those are.
You'll be able to vote on them shortly at KFAN 1003 on Twitter and X.
Results
or X.
Results and pairings. Could you crack out the Lakefront Music Fest giveaway sheet and you read it and I'll do the musical accompaniment to it? I should have warned you before this, but I don't plot things out very well. Matter of fact, real quick, Tenneby, this is really good. Text message. Comment on the power trip this morning. They were talking about bad dreams and nightmares. Marnie said her recurring nightmare is that she's going on TV and hasn't done any prep work. That's her nightmare. Mine is the opposite.
That's her daily occurrence.
Yeah, for me, it's a dream. I just go in and wing it, and I don't have to do any prep time at all. But I guess, all folks are different. Did you find it, by the way?
Yes.
Okay.
Lakefront Music Fest is back.
It's back.
Bigger than ever.
Bigger than ever.
Don't miss out on Rock Night.
Rock Night.
On Friday, July 11th. Headlined by Foreigner.
I am Iron Man.
With support from 38 Special.
Down on Thunder.
And Loverboy.
The one morning the sun was shining. I was laying in bed, wondering if she'd change it all if her hair was to bread. Tangled up in blue.
Tickets are on sale now. Lakefront Music Fest is back. Don't miss out on Rock Night.
Be the 11th caller at 1-800-320-5326. 1-800-320-5326, and you'll be a winner of tickets to see Rock Night at Lakefront Music Fest from all of us here at the Fan. Rosen joins us next.